Welcome to Big Life Weekly Series, where we empower high achievers to break free from limits, unlock their natural potential, and live a big life. I'm your host, Robert Acosta, and each week we will explore the strategies, mindsets, and tools you need to thrive, not just in your professional career, but in every aspect of your life. Whether you're a leader looking for a better balanced life, an entrepreneur aiming for sustainable success, or someone ready to take the next step toward your best self, this podcast is your space to grow, reflect, and take action. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, I'm Robert Acosta. I'm with Teresa Davenport, founder of Davenport Design and Development in Alabama, USA. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you, Robert. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So let's jump right in and start showcasing your business. Teresa, can you give us a 90-second overview of what your business does and why you got into it?
I'll try, but I know my overview is a little longer, but
Okay.
maybe my other answers will be shorter, so it'll all work out. So my business, D3 for short, it's learning solutions. So that's what most people would call training. Since 1996, I've been a freelance consultant, and that's pretty much evolved into a business, but that's how it started. And over the years, I've frequently worked with other consultants, hired subcontractors, and now those subcontractors are doing these larger projects. And what I typically do now is oversee these larger projects with the help of those subcontractors. So currently, our sweet spot is the technology sector, where we create innovative, award-winning learning solutions for employees to leverage the ever-changing technology landscape. In other words, we provide software training, but we do a lot more than that. We're into leadership development, change management, LMS administration, in other words, where the training sits, training data aggregation, virtual and classroom facilitation in a wide range of topics. We work with government sector, academia. We might be creating a PhD program for a university. So if it's learning, we're there. Really, it discovered me, I'd have to say. So I discovered the field of instructional design when I was an employee at the University of South Alabama in the very early 90s. I will say here that from 86, when I graduated college, till 91, I was in a desert of job fails because I'd majored in psychology and vocal performance, and then I needed to enter the workforce just because of our situation with my husband and I needed to work, but I had no real work skills. So a series of failed jobs. And then I finally found this job that combined what I knew was my love of learning and helping others learn, and as new as it was, technology. I loved technology. So my coworker told me about this new master's degree in instructional systems design, and I was hooked from the moment I learned that it existed. And I loved that combination of cognitive psychology and technology. Never looked back. I had a few more full-time jobs in that time period of 91 to say 95, but my desire to work in the consulting capacity was really hard to resist. I was doing some change management within some of the companies I was working with, and that was really something that I was seeing. Like, if we would change in this way, we could be so much better. Well, what I quickly learned was change management. If you're not the designated change manager in your organization, it's not received well. So in 95, my husband's in his first year of law school, and I'm just itching to start consulting, and I'm the sole breadwinner. So we agreed, find 3 contracts, take the leap. And they quickly came, and I quickly took the leap. My income increased 5-fold immediately because the instructional designers were in very big demand at that time. Never looked back, and it was really a no-fail mission. Didn't have a choice. It had to work, but it did. I love it. Never looked back.
Well, you mentioned that you're a psychologist, correct?
No, I'm majored in psychology.
Major.
An undergraduate in psychology prepares you for nothing really except more education.
Yeah, but
Nobody told me that, nobody told me that when I was getting that
But
major.
I think one of the skills that I admire of from psychologists is that connection with humans, the understanding of humans.
Absolutely,
And when you
absolutely.
have that, and I think you teach and you learn that
Yeah,
in leadership, it's
true.
about people. It's not
Yeah.
about your skills and about how much you know, but how
Yes,
much you can really express that empathy and understand the
no
others.
question,
And
no
I think
question.
maybe that's why I'm answering one of your questions. Maybe that's what you makes you
Well,
unique, right?
I have to say, also those years of job fails created a lot of empathy. I did not want people to struggle the way I did in places where they were not able to succeed, not able to use their real giftings. So that created a real passion in me to empower others with tools and skills, or leverage what they already have to feel that they could be productive and successful in their jobs.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned success, how do you define success in the work you do?
In the work I do, it is really not about me. I am, I guess you'd say, sort of an Oz, the Wizard of Oz. I am that behind the scenes person. Hopefully, nobody ever knows I'm there, but I'm helping someone else achieve their goals. That's when I'm successful.
Right. When you see others being successful.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I know. It's not about titles or numbers or accolades, but the
Yeah.
feeling you want from being of someone else, and that freedom and the impact and the peace of mind that they live in. That's I understand. That's a good way of defining success, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just curious, what is the biggest problem you see in your industry or in your business, and how are you solving that for yourself, your clients, your colleagues, or partners?
Mhm. Yep. I'm a person, most people who know me would say I'm not even a glass half full. I'm a glass full. I see opportunities, in other words. I don't see problems. So, what is the current opportunity? In the learning field, I think it's learning how to harness the power of AI to create learning solutions in a way that retains the value of human performance while leveraging the power of AI. So I can give you some examples on the client side. You're someone who is thinking, AI has arrived. I don't need a vendor. I'm just going to do this myself and create an awesome quality learning experience. So they press the go button on what they want to create. They send it out, and they're not getting the results they thought they would. So at that point, people who were not equipped to begin with, they certainly can't figure out what is the problem. So the challenge here is to help clients, first of all, realize that AI is not a no-fail tool. It is an assistance tool, but it requires people who know how to leverage its capabilities and how to spot its vulnerabilities to keep learning at its peak utilization. And then on the developer side, for those who are creating learning solutions, it's kind of like what I was just saying. AI might look great on the front end, right after you press that generate button, and it's just looks so cool. But that's really for people in content development. That's where the work really begins, because you've got to validate
Right.
what you've generated. So it might look like a time saver, but that's where you're wrong. Validation and correction usually eat up all the time you spent generating your product. So, smart prompting can help get you a long way down that path, but and we have a long way to go. So my point is, let's not stop using our brains as we integrate AI into our learning solution work streams, and let's not devalue the human inputs to render
Right.
intelligent output.
Yeah, definitely. That it's just another faculty, mental faculty that we can add to the ones that we have. But still, being human, we cannot be replaced in many things. And talking about leadership later, we can address that point. But I know that in your learning consulting, you get across to a different kind of clients, I guess. So who is your ideal client and what significant outcomes can they expect when they work with you?
Remind me if I don't answer the significant outcomes, and I'll come back and address that.
Okay.
First, I would love to describe the nightmare client because then it makes the ideal client really stand out. That the nightmare client, which I'll be honest, I don't have any of these, and I'm very thankful for that. But it's that one who is in a constant state of internal chaos, and they invite key stakeholders like your C level. Oh, by the way, we need to have our CLO review this, our chief learning officer review this before we send it out. And they do that like right before it's ready to launch. And that person requests major systemic changes. They should have been there from the beginning. And another thing about this client is they don't stick to the agreed charter that we set up at the beginning of the project that clearly defines all the elements of the project. But they will stick to the agreed price. In other words, they want to make a lot of changes through the process that they don't want to pay for. They don't know what they want until you submit something, and then they can say, no, that's not what I want. So those are some of the challenges that I meet with difficult clients. So the ideal client usually has an internal learning expert who simply needs help, can't do it all.
Right.
And so we can speak the same language, and that person can articulate the need, has a realistic budget, and can secure the right subject matter experts and understands the value of those subject matter experts, so that person can also get the time that we need from those subject matter experts because they are necessary. You know, when we create training, when we create learning solutions, we're not, well, I will say after so many years, in some cases we are subject matter experts, but generally we're not. So we need these people. And that person that I'm describing understands that. So we function like one cohesive team, and expectations that are set at the beginning of the project are carried out to the end. And the icing on the cake is when we have a client who's excited about doing something innovative and has the internal influence to make that happen. And so in return, maybe this is where I'm answering your second part of the question. Here's what our clients get from us. They get innovation, because as I just said, we never do the same. We're not off the shelf. Every client has a unique need, and we can adapt our solutions to meet that need, exceed that need, and they get value. So we're often told, well, when our clients are honest enough, they'll say that we're not charging enough because our pricing is based on a fair market labor rate and estimated hours to completion. And I think we work fast and lean, and that's where that's where we make a difference. And we have minimal overhead. We work virtually, so there's no physical site that we're paying for. We don't do a lot of business travel. So our bottom line is very trim, and our clients get exactly what they ask for with improvement. So we don't simply meet expectations, we wow our clients. And you know, we've been doing this a long time. So in my opinion, there's no excuse for us not to wow our clients because we've seen it all and we know how to do it and make it better every time.
Yeah, I think the name of the game is solutions. They're looking for solutions,
Yes.
but you have to have this humility to ask for help, as you mentioned. And
Yes.
and really, when you ask for help, it's because you really want to surpass any goal that you can do by yourself. So that's why you ask for help. You have to have that goal, and you have to want or to know what you want before you ask for help. Otherwise, as you say, that's a nightmare client. So, and you know, nowadays more people are actively seeking solutions to achieve better outcomes. So, what makes you unique in the way you help them achieve those outcomes?
I believe it's authenticity. So I invest in the people I work with, and from clients to contractors to consultants in my network. I focus on building relationships. You know, we're talking today. I hope we are building a relationship. And authenticity builds trust. But that trust, it's not just authenticity, it's proven in the work, in the day-to-day communications, in demonstrating reliability, ethics, quality. And I think this is unique because I simply don't see others working in this way. When I do, I grab them. They're my consultant friends, my collaborators, my clients, but I just don't see it a lot. I see a lot of fear, and that fear creates a distrust of others, people holding their cards tight, which means sometimes we don't get information we really needed to do our jobs well, and they do not invest in relationships. So I found that authenticity and being nice is a win. It's a stress reliever. Right. At the end of the day, I can say, I am really for you. This is what I told you at the beginning when we first started asking. Sometimes that means in the moment, a temporary loss for me, maybe a monetary or opportunity loss. And I think that's the real difference because my niceness sometimes means I refer work to someone else who I know has the specific niche that client is looking for. Or I might recommend a shortcut that means I don't get as much billable work, but I know it's the best thing for the client. And you know what? That client ends up coming back and say, well, you do that with all these other courses. We end up getting more work. But sometimes this is the cost of the relationship, but it comes back many times over.
Right. I think doing the right thing, it always pays off.
Yes.
So I think that's exactly what you're saying. So let's switch gear a little bit here and let me ask you this. What's the strangest or funniest incident you have experienced while working in your consulting or learning consulting business? Something that you can share with us that it was weird or strange or even funny.
I would say, I think, and you didn't ask me this one on the prep, since this is off the top of my head. I think what we do would make an awesome series. I can just see the episodes, like every time this instructional designer is going into a client's work environment and working. We do job task analysis where we go in and we say, what do you do? What do you do next? What are the resources you do to do this? So that we can create training based on what they're telling us. Well, I've had stories where I'm with this person and they're taking me on a tour of their, say it's a manufacturing plant. In this case it was. And they take me to this big chemical vat. This is not really funny. It's kind of morbid, I guess, but it's the reality. And they're like, so this is where these chemicals are dumped in and it's highly toxic. In fact, someone fell into the vat and, that was so I'm sorry, that's not really a funny story. And it was not meant to be, but I'm just telling you, these are the realities. And we're told highly, sometimes secretive, we get the deep ingredients of what makes this business work. And we do sometimes get into just, again, things that would make great episodes and mysteries and how are we going to solve this? So personally, I think that's very fun and exciting and you never know what's going to come next. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. How to avoid accidents as well is part of the learning,
safety.
right?
Yeah, that was a safety course that we were developing. So I guess that was relevant. Yeah.
So what do you see as the coming trends within your business or the learning or consulting industry, and how are you staying on top of that?
The trends, tools. Let me just talk about the tools of our trade. I won't get deep into this because if you're not into creating learning solutions, this won't mean a lot. So generally speaking, right now in our industry, there have been, we use tools, especially for our e-learning development. And for the last 10 or so years, there have been a few market leaders that anyone in our industry, pick up the phone, if you're looking for a resource, can they use Storyline or Camtasia or different tools that we would use to create video and great e-learning. Well, with the advent of AI, the playing field at this particular moment is very open to new players. And I'd say because of social media. If you can get your SEO results up, then you can get to the top of the pack pretty quickly. So all of us are looking at these new AI tools that where the AI is already built in. It's hard to misuse it, and Canva is a good example, I think, where you can just generate some images really easily and well, and a lot of these tools are free also. So where I'm heading is, I think at the moment there's a plethora of tools. We're all trying to figure out which are the most effective, best for our purposes, and which will allow us to innovate and push the bar of what learning solutions look like. So I'd say in the next 5 years, that field will kind of, the certain new players may emerge. Maybe the market leaders we currently have will retain their market value. I would also say the way organizations curate their learning. There's so many learning solutions out there. If you think about it, we are a kind of a YouTube generation. We're multi-generational, but many people are using YouTube on their personal time to learn how to cook, a recipe, fix their toilet, whatever. So we are individual curators, and I think I'm seeing organizations become a little more open to just say, here's what you need to learn, go learn it. And they might put some parameters. We have a lot of, restrictions around what people can and cannot access in the workplace. But within that general context, I think we'll see more independent learning take place in the workplace, again, given certain parameters or restrictions. And we'll see the tools that are used to create learning become, we're going to start using some new tools and hopefully use them effectively. So the way of learning is going to change, and the tools used to assemble that learning are changing and going to change.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's doing less than more, right? We have, as you mentioned, we have a lot of tools, a lot of information from all parts, all over the world. We receive information about how to do this and that. So, and we don't know what to select. And so I think some people are asking, so give me one answer, one solution. I don't want to see all the options. You only want the one that is for me. And for that, you need help of an expert to say, okay, this is the one for you, for this specific goal that you want to achieve, right?
Yes. I'll add, after COVID, people were so hungry for personal interaction that, interestingly, a resurgence of instructor-led training, and especially being in a physical classroom, was a desire of the learners. Organizations had quickly learned it's not very economical. It costs a lot. When they had to go virtual and they realized what a cost savings it was. But I do see a back and forth there where people really want to be together and learn together. And to me, it will be interesting to see, does that trend hold, and does it increase, or does it stabilize, or does it decrease? That one I have a question mark there, but I know that it's a desire of learners to learn together when it's appropriate.
I think so far we're doing kind of both things. So maybe the answer would be, what is the right balance between both, and we can keep both in our scope. So why don't you tell us, what is the biggest failure or challenge, I'd rather say, you faced to this point in your life, and how has that shaped the way you do business today?
Yeah. Earlier I said that there were times, I think I said this, no I didn't, but there were times when you're doing project-based work, and when it's just me. In the early years it was largely just me. There are breaks in that work pipeline. There's not always a new project, especially when I'm staying busy doing the work and I'm not spending time doing a lot of marketing of myself. So definitely that has been my biggest challenge, especially early on, was keeping that pipeline full of oncoming work. And I know I'm not alone. I've talked to so many people that when they get to that point, that might be the time, that's their exit ramp. But for me, it was the catalyst that caused me to really invest in relationships and not worry so much about getting the work, as ironic as that sounds. I mean, picture, I'm out of work. Okay, who am I going to call? Who am I going to email to say, do you have any work? But what I found was those were great times to say, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? And it's funny how, just again, investing in relationships. So here's a quick story. I was down to one contract, and for ethical reasons, I felt like I just could not continue doing that work. And I've never had an ethical situation before or since, but there it was. And before I could resign, the contract was suddenly cut. And there I was. No work, no work in the pipeline. And it was a really tough time in our family life. We just had a lot of financial pressures. And so after much praying and reaching out to my existing networks, nothing happening. But my husband had lunch with a friend, and that friend was launching his own training business. And they started talking about me, and he's like, well, I need to talk to your wife. I need what she does. And I remember we got on our first phone call, and I didn't know him, he didn't know me, but he listened very empathetically of my story of, here I am needing work and what can we do? And he offered me, first of all, friendship, and secondly, an opportunity. And so we jumped into a project. It was one of those where we started with a job task analysis and developed some great training for a restaurant chain. And then we did another project, and slowly those wheels of work began to turn. Other relationships began to bear fruit, and food appeared on our pantry shelves, bills were paid, credit destruction avoided, and I learned the value, really, that really hit home, the value of relationships. And he and I have collaborated on and off through the years since, and we both, I mean, sometimes it's me giving him projects, sometimes it's him giving me projects. But, we can call each other day and night. Our families are great friends, and it's just a great feeling. But the pain of uncertainty and not knowing where the next project would come from, that was a defining moment, and it causes you to ask, what do I really want? Do I want to keep doing this? Is it worth these hard times? What can I do to keep these hard times from coming again? So hitting rock bottom and seeing if it's worth getting up again. So no question, I love the business. And
I think some of the additional elements is patience. Be patient, right? You needed to be patient, and trust. You mentioned the word trust. You have to trust in yourself, in what you have, and the value that you provide. Maybe it's not happening as fast as you want it, but when you trust yourself, it's going to happen. So keep doing what you do best.
for sure,
Make relationships. And
Yes.
that's exactly what you did, and definitely it paid off, right?
And I know many of your listeners would be able to relate because they've probably done it. Those are also the times when you dig deep creatively and skills wise and say, okay, where are my gaps? Are there some skill gaps I need to get right now? There's a certification I need to get now that I didn't have time to do before. Those are those times for those that
Yeah, talking about that, that's you recognize that there's a room to growth yourself in your knowledge in whatever you do. So, what is the next growth area for you personally and your business?
Right now, I'll talk more about my business. It's generational. So right now I'm doing a lot of investing in the next generation. My daughter, I invited her, my oldest, we have three. I invited her to start working with me, and this blows my mind. It was 7 years ago, I believe. And she was on the verge of getting her undergraduate in leadership development and business. And she was 18 years old, but she was very competent. And she joined me and has done exceedingly well in this field. So when I say generationally, I'm preparing another generation to take the helm in the areas that allow me to do other things. So I'll talk about that. So she's just one example. I have several that I'm mentoring, and in fact, her husband is also a a business partner and doing very well. I did not intend it to be necessary. Well, I guess I did. Like, I'm a legacy person. I really am a legacy, a family legacy person. But I offer the same opportunities to others I see who have the same values and believe in this investment in relationships and are extremely intelligent and hardworking. So I have some really, really high standards for who joins me, but I am looking generationally. So for me personally, in this coming decade, there are several areas I would love, and I'm a collaborator. Honestly, I have a hard time getting motivated when I don't have someone else that's pushing along with me. So I love to collaborate. I really would like to do more writing. I have several topics. Anyone who is in learning might have heard of Bloom's taxonomy. I believe it's time for a new taxonomy. It's a base, it's a framework for learning, and I think we're ready for a new one. So I would love to invest in that and find someone who would like to, who's passionate about that and would want to do that with me. So I think more of the things that I did not have time to do earlier, writing, perhaps speaking like we're doing today, sharing unique knowledge that I've gained over the years, and simply haven't taken the time to share. I would like to do more of that, and that's a very high level. Growing the business. If we talk any more about work-life balance, you'll see that I'm not really a big business person. I can get more into that if you wish, but mainly it's just making sure that before I leave this planet, that I have invested in others by sharing all that I know so that they can continue and grow on what I've learned and do greater things.
Yeah, that's amazing. It looks like it's your time to be the teacher, not the one that brings the teaching or necessarily to create the teaching. There's other people that can learn that from you, but with the key things that you do and that is unique for you, like doing this, making this relationship, like making it the foundation of whatever you do. So yeah, I think it's a great goal and a great way of seeing the rest of your life. And I feel with your words that it's very satisfying just to think about living that way the rest of your life, right?
Yep.
So let me ask you this funny question. If you could have lunch with one person, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I'll be honest, I hate these pick one questions. You can't even put up one finger because I love variety. I mean, if you ask me my favorite color, I'm going to say red and blue. So this was a tough one. All right, I'm going to answer my question, but then I want to add a follow-up if I have time. I would love to meet with a former someone in my ancestry that I didn't know existed, but that was passionate about changing the world at that time and actually did something. I would love to hear what was it? What did you do? Maybe they were adventurous, they just lived outside the norm. And who is that person? What did they do? Do I have any of their genes? Is that why I'm the way I am? So that would be that one person. But really, this kind of goes back to the previous question you just asked. What I would really love to do with the remainder of my life is do a thorough study, and this is really a PhD, which is still something I would love to get. I never did get a PhD. I only got a master's. Study civilizations that optimized learning. How did they learn? We know that there are things that exist on this earth that we're like, how did they do that? That's what I'd like to know. How did they do that? How did they learn? How did they I think we tend to not value generational transfer of learning these days. It's like you're born, okay, I'm going to start from scratch and learn. No, I would love to learn how do we learn smarter based on previous generations. I also think there's probably some learning out there. This is really going both ways, backwards and forwards. Areas of our brain that we just really haven't accessed and optimized. That's a huge one. I don't know that there's time in my life to go both directions. So if I had to choose, I would love to go backwards and see what are we missing that previous generations and civilizations did have.
Well, that's amazing. In the past, yes, the learning was passed orally, and then it came the writing. So the invention of the writing, I think the main purpose was to pass those learnings and make sure that those learnings remain for eternity. So maybe you go through the story of writing indirectly, you're going to understand the learning process of humanity. So yeah, I'm a passionate of human mind and human behavior. And of course, when you talk or when you learn about human behavior, you need to understand how we learn, so how we act and how we behave. So I think that's amazing. So what is the best way for people to contact you if they'd like to work with you or discuss any referral partnership?
Sure. Email is the obvious thing. Teresa, Teresa, at Davenport Design, no S after design.com. And of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you. Those would be the most direct ways.
Yeah, simple. There you have it. So that was amazing, Teresa. I truly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Thank you for joining me on Big Life Weekly series. I hope today's episode gave you the insight, inspiration, and tools you need to move closer to the life you're meant to live. Remember, true success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about how you feel while you achieving it. If you found value in our conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with others who are ready to embrace their big life. Until next time, stay focused, keep growing, enjoy life, and break free.